I don't remember feeling any real pain. I remember being blown off of my feet. It was like the ground had suddenly shoved forward, throwing me backward and knocking the wind out of me as I fell. I remember gasping once, and then nothing. No white light, no voices or trumpets or faces of my family. I was drifting in a void of nothingness, unaware of my physical being. Cognitive reason had abandoned me. I felt, for lack of a better term, free. Free from pain and guilt, free from responsibility and fear. I was free from everything as I lost myself to the infinite void. Then I heard a loud horn and my eyes snapped open. 1 second, everything had faded to black like an old Warner Brothers cartoon, then the nothingness, and then fully alert. At first I assumed I was still in the alley, maybe not heard as much as I thought. Someone must have found me, and that's what all the noise was about. But unlike my last memory, I was not lying flat on my back staring at the gray sky, in a growing pool of my own blood. Now I was standing on my own 2 feet, and I didn't seem to be bleeding from anywhere. I didn't recognize the clothes I was wearing, which, to be honest, has happened to me before. Sure, they fit, but they were definitely not mine. I was wearing an oversized Hawaiian shirt with huge pink flowers with leaves and vines in various shades of green, all set on a bright purple background. The khaki shorts I was wearing had large cargo pockets on the thighs. I had knee-high tube socks on that had 3 green bands around the top. But the sandals. Oh, how I hate sandals. Looked like they were made from old car tires. All in all, not a horrible look, well, except for the sandals and socks. But I still instantly felt I looked a little foolish, unless I was selling pineapples by the side of the road. The horn I'd heard must have been a car horn because I was standing in the middle of a parking lot, in a set of about 6 or 7 empty spaces, facing the cars that were scattered across the remainder of the lot. I saw an ugly brown Ford Pinto, a couple battered Chevy Vegas, a bright red Geo Metro. There was even what I thought was an old Edsel. Not a single Lexus or BMW or even an actual SUV in the lot. I figured this must be where owners park their cars hoping they get stolen. I was also pretty certain I was no longer in Seattle. The city I was in looked like Detroit and New Orleans had a bastard child and left it to raise itself. The air was warm, not hot and sticky, and felt like the very city was breathing on you. There were a few clouds in the sky, and I was guessing it was near sunset, but from my vantage point, I couldn't actually see where the sun was setting. The buildings that I could see ranged in height from 8 to 10 stories to low single-story business fronts. Each one was festering with moss and ivy here and there. Several had their lower windows broken out or boarded over, and all of them looked like they could use a fresh coat of paint. I was trying to get my bearings when I heard the screams for the first time. I looked away from the buildings surrounding the island of misfit cars, but I couldn't comprehend what I was seeing. I saw 3 sets of the other things, as I would later find they were called, invading and rending their helpless victims into the ground, not 10 feet from me. The 3 men looked like they'd been in their early 20s, possibly college boys, but never again. There was a thick tearing and slopping sound that could be heard over the young men's screams. They were so close, I could feel my feet being coated with the mist from their ruined bodies, and I could smell their organs being liquefied. My brain threatened to shut down, and I could tell I was about to be sick from what I was seeing, and from the deep vibration I could feel to my very core. My gorge was rising up from my stomach, and my balls were somehow racing to fill the void, when I registered a thin, older man I hadn't noticed before, running towards me. He hit me with a squarely placed uppercut to my chin. The blow slammed my mouth shut and nearly forced me to bite off my own tongue. He leaned in next to my ear. "If you don't want to end up like them, keep your mouth shut," he said, pointing to the nightmare in front of me. I was amazed I could hear him over the screams of agony around me, not to mention the sounds of shredding flesh and smashing bone. His words, however, were clear, and I knew I needed to stay very, very still. I'm sure you've heard of fight or flight instinct, but there are really 3 options. When fight and flight both escape you, all you're left with is freeze. I could see fight was not an option, and although flight had its merits, I was afraid any movement would draw the attention of those things to me.